the world, that you protect them. And Lord, we pray that you give our leaders all the way up to Washington, D.C., that you give them direction and wisdom, as there's so many decisions that have to be made and the consequences of those decisions. Again, we thank you for the blessings that you've given us in this county. I'm thankful, Lord, for all the many things that you've done here in this county for us. It's a great place that we have to live and the people that serve this community. And we thank you again for the men and women serving locally and around the country. And as the school year has started, Lord, I just pray a special blessing on the schools in Iredell County, that you keep our children safe and that you give the teachers and the administration the wisdom as they direct so many lives. And we thank you for all these things. It's in your Son's name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smith, are there any adjustments to this agenda coming from you or any member of the staff this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I have no adjustments to the agenda.
Are there any adjustments of this agenda coming from any member of the board? Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion to adopt this agenda as presented.
Motion to adopt.
We have a motion to adopt by Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. This time we have a presentation of a proclamation to announce October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this evening we're pleased to have Captain Dan Miglin of the Statesville Police Department, Ms. Pam Navy from the Statesville Police Department, Patty Wiley from My Sister's House, Patty West, Fifth Street Ministries, and Atri Wooten, Domestic Violence Specialist. All these folks deal directly with domestic violence in one way or another. And I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then I'll ask these folks to come up and we'll present them with this proclamation. The problem of domestic violence directly affects many citizens of Iredell County, North Carolina. Domestic violence is a very serious crime that affects people of all races, age, genders, and income levels. Its effects are widespread and has an impact on over 4 million Americans each year. It is estimated that 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence. Statistics prove that children who grow up in violent homes are abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average. Domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annual in medical expense, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. It is devastating to our society as a whole, but especially to the victims and their children. Iredell County is fortunate to have an organization and a shelter dedicated to helping women who suffer from physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, or economic control and or abuse. My Sister's House, a program of Fifth Street Ministries, has provided shelter, counseling, victim advocacy, and hope to thousands of victims seeking help over the past 25 years. This organization has an excellent working relationship with the government of Iredell County, Mooresville, Statesville, and Troutman, and their respective law enforcement agencies. My Sister's House has formed important partnerships among criminal justice agencies, health care providers, and professional and service agencies to assist victims of domestic violence and their families. A coordinated community effort will stop this heinous crime. The Domestic Violence Task Force of Iredell is multidisciplined, coordinated, community collaborative of more than 50 organizations and stakeholders brought together for the purpose of increasing awareness of domestic violence in our community, improving the efficiency and coordination of domestic violence response by partnering organizations, increasing the safety and resolve of victims, and improving their access to related services, increasing offender accountability and reducing recidivism, and reducing the exposure of children to domestic violence. The Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy service and assistance to victims. Therefore, I, Stephen Johnson, pledge the support of the Board of Commissioners to do a better job of educating, connecting, and inspiring this community to end domestic violence in Iredell County. Not only do we proclaim October 24th as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we also urge all citizens to join us in working together every day throughout the year. And that's signed by myself, Stephen D. Johnson. I'm going to ask Miss Patty West to come forward, and I'm going to present this proclamation to her. And Captain Miglin, Ms. Navy, Wiley, and Ms. Wooten, if they'd like to come forward. Whoever wishes. This time, we'll declare this meeting to be in a public hearing in regard to requests from Scott Thorson of BMCH North Carolina, LLC, to release zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the town of Mooresville. Mr. Todd will be presenting this to us. Welcome, sir.
Good evening to the board. Property in question tonight, again, this is just a, no, this is the public hearing. This is a property on Rocky River Road, outlined in blue on the screen. You can see the hatched area surrounding the property is already in Mooresville's jurisdiction. Was released to Mooresville in 2013, and at this time they're requesting the adjacent 0.4 acres to be released as part of a right-of-way to access the property. The following map is the land use plan showing the area there to be rural commercial. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one.
Any questions, Mr. Todd, from any member of the board? Thank you, Mr. Todd. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in regard to this request to release this zoning jurisdiction? If you would come forward and state your name for the record, please. Seeing no one wishing to do so, we'll declare this public hearing closed, and the floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to release this property to the zoning jurisdiction of Mooresville.
Okay. We have a motion to approve this request from Commissioner Robertson. Any discussion on his motion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll again declare the meeting to be in a public hearing in regard to consider a request, case number 1408-1 from John Reagan to rezone 2.10 acres at 2089 Mecklenburg Highway in Davidson from RA to NB. Mr. Todd?
This property, again, outlined in blue, is on the southernmost border of Iredell County with Mecklenburg County. It's currently zoned to RA. The request is to go to straight NB. Staff supports this request based on the property was a commercial use prior to countywide zoning. It is a main corridor. The adjacent municipalities do not object to the rezoning. and potential traffic impacts should not come close to the road capacity.
Okay.
This is the Horizon Plan map. The property actually does fall within the low-density residential area, but again, it's been an existing commercial business. Across the street's Davidson's jurisdiction with Village Growth Employment Center. And then to the south, you've got rural area reserved and some additional village area growth. This is an aerial of the property. You can see in the very corner is the existing business. A few pictures of the subject property. South along 115. Looking back north, property is on our right. Looking directly across into Ingersoll Rand property with the rail line visible. And again, this business would have been grandfathered in originally. Several years back, they came through for an expansion of a non-conforming use. They started that process. The economy hit. The process was not finished. Time passed, and they actually lost their non-conforming status again. So the only way to make this property usable is pretty much to go through a rezoning to a commercial district. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions, Mr. Todd?
Do you know what their intended use is for this?
With it being a straight NB, I believe the applicant is intending to go with a restaurant, but it depends on the market.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other questions? As this is a public hearing, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in regard to this matter? If you would, come forward, please, and state your name for the record. Seeing no one, we'll declare this public hearing closed, and the floor is open for a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion in favor of the zoning map amendment and to make a finding that though the request is inconsistent with the 2030 Horizon Plan, said approval is reasonable and the public interest based on how the property has been used since prior to the adoption of countywide zoning, its location along a major corridor, and its conformity with Davidson's future land use for property directly across from Mecklenburg Highway. As a result, said approval furthers the goals and objectives of the 2030 Horizon Plan.
Okay. Any discussion on Mr. Hout's motion for approval? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That would again declare the meeting to be in a public hearing to consider requests from the Planning Division staff for text amendments to the Land Development Code. Mr. Todd?
Okay, I've got a screenshot of the paper you have, and mostly it's just for reference. It's too small to read, but it's so we can reference the same document. The Land Development Code for years now has had a section in there that specifically spelled out ABC sales for on-premise consumption, and it grouped it in with bars. We've struggled with this for years, and in fact, I think it came up a few years back with this board when we were looking at the Stutz Marina property. And it's a little misleading because this section is really intended to regulate bars, not all on-premise consumption sites. You know, most restaurants are going to have on-premise consumption. Most of your general restaurants are. So we crossed that out again, so this just regulates a bar. And then we had to adjust our definitions of bar and restaurant to basically match what the state has in place as from the ABC licensing board. And then as far as where they're permitted, we've left them the same. It just seems it was a little misleading when you specifically say ABC sales for on-premise consumption, but we were only applying it for bars. So hopefully it's a clarification in the code.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Todd? Okay. We'll go ahead and proceed with the next one.
Okay. The next one had to do with parking lot landscaping. And what we ran into, this was a new section in the code in 2011. We ran into a couple cases where this section is intended for uses that are allowed in residential districts. Something like a church is kind of the go-to scenario on this. Churches are allowed in residential districts, but they have a lot of, I'll say, commercial aspects to them with parking, traffic in and out. So the code, to address that at the time, it added a requirement of buffering the parking lot. And, you know, if you were in a commercial district, you had a whole separate set of buffering requirements. But in the residential, there was nothing to buffer the uses. So we added the stipulation that you had to buffer the parking lot. And within the first year or two, we ran into, of course, a church, pre-existing, adjacent to a 200-acre cornfield. Doesn't make much sense for them to buffer, to spend several $1,000s to buffer their parking lot adjacent to a cornfield. The code didn't really give us any flexibility on that. So we've gone in and doing some research, basically low beams, supposedly shine approximately 160 feet as far as the glare is concerned from them. So we went in and we felt, you know, if a residence is over 200 feet, then that part of the code we wouldn't have to apply because of the impact at that point is low enough that the shrubbery or the landscaping is not going to necessarily make that big of a difference. We also went in and adjusted the 3-foot height requirement because that's a pretty big shrub for just starting off to an 18-inch shrub. We were running into some problems on some of the site plans with contractors supposedly finding plants suitable, so we dropped it to 18 inches. And they'll have to grow to that requirement of the code. And then we went back in and just added some language, which is similar throughout the landscaping section, that says if there's existing vegetation there, we can judge that to say, does it meet the code or does it not meet the code? So those were the changes we made to that landscaping section.
So what happens with, and we'll use your scenario of a church, and they build a church that's surrounded by a cornfield. There's no houses, so you don't create a buffer. A year later, Farmer Jones sells his farm to developer Smith. They put in lots and houses, and now there's no buffer up. How's that addressed?
You know, our philosophy on that was that the church, or whatever use it is already there. Somebody then is buying it after the fact. They know it's there. It's not then this use coming in and intruding on them. They're buying it knowing that the use is there, is the thinking behind that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to let you go ahead. I believe you got one more. Is that right?
One more, that's correct.
Yeah, let's go ahead and proceed with that, and then we'll let anybody who wants to speak. And I believe we'd be safe to pass these with one motion, wouldn't we?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
This past, 2011, the General Assembly changed a lot of things with the Board of Adjustment and the way they operate. It's taken us some time to get an understanding of a lot of those changes, but we're finally bringing those before the board for adoption. And I'll try to go over those. But the gist is that I'll hit the high points, and if you have any questions, we can dive into it more. But for example, public notice in the paper is not required anymore. You know, that's a savings to us. We still notify adjacent property owners, but we don't have to put an ad in the paper. It talks about the filing procedures. Little seems unorthodox, but an application has to be filed actually with the clerk to this board instead of our office. That's a change. We've confirmed that with the School of Government, and that is correct. So we'll have to deal with that as it comes up. Also dove into a little bit of who has standing as far as appeals are concerned. Who can make statements. It also talks about the voting, special use versus a variance, and the 4/5 rule. It clarified that. It had been a little unclear previously, but the 4/5 is only required on, and I have to look that up, variances and not special use permits. Pretty much everything in this section of the ordinance changed directly from those statute changes. There were just several areas throughout here that we picked how to make small changes to, so hopefully that covered everything.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Todd? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here who wishes to address either one of these three issues? If you would, come forward and state your name for the record, please. Seeing no one, we'll declare this public hearing closed and the floor is open for a motion. And if you would like to make one omnibus motion and pass all three, if you'd like to make individual motions, it's your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make one motion to cover all three.
Okay, we have a motion
To approve.
Okay, to approve all three of these amendments. Any discussion on Mr. Robertson's motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Right. Thank you, sir. That's all we have. Brings us to administrative matters and Mr. Smith.
The first item is also a request from the Planning Division. It's to deal with a request for zoning and subdivision release to the town of Mooresville.
Okay.
This particular one is just the call for the public hearing, which will be scheduled October 7th. This is a 183-acre tract on 21 and behind Shepherd Elementary School. You can see it on the map outlined in blue, with Shepherd indicated on the top edge of the map. Currently zoned RA. The 2030 Horizon Plan calls for this area to be a medium-density residential. And again, this is just the call for the public hearing. They're looking at developing approximately 43 additional lots from what they could do at the county level if they develop at the 2 per acre, which is what was referenced in the attached letters from the town.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Todd? And again, the request is just to call for a public hearing at our next meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Floor is open for a motion if there's no questions.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve this request for a public hearing comes from Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Item B is a request from the tax assessor, Malia Miller, to accept the proposed uniform schedule of values, standards, and rules to be used in the 2015 reappraisal.
Good evening. The Iredell County Assessor's Office reappraises all real property in Iredell County every 4 years. 2015 reappraisal is in process. Real property staff appraisers continue to analyze sales and perform pictometry and field reviews. The effective date of the reappraisal is January 1st, 2015. The purpose of the countywide reappraisal is to equalize the tax burden among property owners and among all classes of property. The periodic reappraisal of real property equalizes the tax burden by ensuring all property is assessed at the current fair market value. A required component of the reappraisal process, per North Carolina General Statute 105-317, is the development, public notice and review, and final adoption by the Board of County Commissioners of uniform schedules of values, standards, and rules, known as the schedules. There are two schedules, one to be used in appraising real property at its market value and one to be used in appraising property at its present use value. Once adopted, the schedules will be used to uniformly and equitably value all property from 2015 through 2018. The process of adopting the schedules of values involves 3 board meetings, September 2nd tonight, October 7th, and October 21st. The proposed schedules have been developed and are submitted tonight. Public notice of submittal will be published in local newspapers on September 5th. Schedules will be available for public inspection at the Assessor's Office, the Iredell County Public Libraries, and on the county website. A public hearing is requested for October 7th, and a request for final adoption of the schedules will be made to the board on October 21st. Dates comply with statutory requirements and ensure timely completion of the 2015 reappraisal. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions, Ms. Miller? Ms. Miller, let me say again, I'm not blaming you for it, but I spent a portion of my Labor Day weekend reading your work, and I can say this, I came away with it with a high degree of the confidence because of the standard that you and your staff have developed with the people of this county. When it comes to assessing their property, it's going to be done fairly.
Thank you very much.
And you've removed it. I know it's impossible to get rid of all subjectivity in such matters, but I think you've come about as close as anybody could expect, and I congratulate you on that.
I appreciate that, and thank you
Yes, ma'am.
saying that. We have a staff that's worked very hard to put these schedules together.
Very hard, and I was impressed by the degree of logic in it, and how it seemed like you would, if I would come up with a question, it seems like I would continue to read a minute longer, and that question would be answered. So it's very comprehensive. It's a very good piece of work. I congratulate you on it.
Thank you very much.
So I think I understand it properly. We're gonna accept the proposed uniform schedule of values, standards, rules, and then we're gonna adopt. We're gonna accept them, and then they cannot until the public. We can't approve them until the public hearing. We're going to approve the public notice publishing, and we're going to call for a public hearing. Right?
Yes, sir. It's to accept the schedules as submitted for review.
Okay.
To approve the public notice for publishing, and to plan to hold a public hearing on the schedules on October 7th.
Okay. So that I won't have to explain that again, I'm going to make the motion myself. I move that we accept the proposed uniform schedule of values, standards, and rules, that we approve the request for public notice for publishing so that the public can review them, and that we call for a public hearing on the proposed schedules on October the 7th, 2014. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Item C is a request from our Health Director, Jane Murray, for approval of additional codes and fees.
Good evening. You have in front of you a few fees that we wanted to add to our walk-in lab services, and a fee for respirator evaluation, which is reviewing medical evaluation questionnaire that's done to see if a person's eligible to be fitted for a respirator. And that's used to prevent exposure to bacteria and viruses that are in the air. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions, Ms. Murray? Not, floor is open for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Item D is a request from ECOM to approve and sign a 3-year agreement with Time Warner Cable. And Brad Brawley will make that presentation.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to ask for approval on a 3-year agreement with Time Warner Cable to install a wide area network connection between the County Communications Center, Statesville Police, and Mooresville Police. The Rescue Star 911 telephone switch at Mooresville Police Department is near the end of life and will not be supported by the manufacturer after 2015. Working with Mooresville Police Department's input, the best solution is to network this agency through our newly installed Patriot 911 switch located at the County Communications Center and the Statesville Police Department. This agreement will provide a secure wide area network to connect these agencies, and this cost is an allowable expenditure for the 911 funds. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Brawley? Hearing none, floor is open for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Griffith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item D is a request from our purchasing manager, Dean Neel, for approval to join and purchase from HGAC Buy and Sign on interlocal agreement to allow purchasing for established contracts.
Good evening. The request I have placed before the board is for approval of signature on an interlocal agreement with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. This will allow the county to buy from the contracts under the HGAC Buy Cooperative Purchasing Program, which was established by that council for the sole purpose of formally bidding and awarding contracts for large capital outlay items, such as vehicles, tractors, things of that nature. Buying from this contract allows local governments to be able to get the kind of discounts that can only be had from large grouped purchases that we cannot do in and of ourselves. Because of the type of the products offered, all HGAC contracts are formally go through the formal sealed bid process, just like the one that's required by North Carolina's general statutes. The statutes do support local governments from buying from cooperative purchasing groups, and when the process is used appropriately, it is considered and recognized a best practice because of the potential savings that it allows and the efficiencies that they can provide in the procurement process. I reviewed the HVAC co-op program. Its organization and its processes easily meet our formal bid requirements. The contracts I've compared for our use do provide some items at prices that are well below some of those we've been able to achieve on our own bid process. We're always looking for ways to help the departments get a lot more out of the budgets, and I believe this is going to be one of those opportunities. To join the co-op, we're required to execute the interlocal agreement. There are no fees, no additional costs to join or to use the contract and buy from it. And signing the agreement does not commit us to a compulsory use of that contract. It remains to be a convenience contract. So I am able to compare items and prices and the purchase options so that we can apply the best procurement method for each individual purchase. The clerk does have copies of the contract or the interlocal agreement if the board so chooses to approve. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Loyal?
In your comments, you answered two of the questions that I had, so I've just got one left. I know that the state of North Carolina, that we've got a state contract that we can buy copiers, police cars, whatever, that kind of stuff on. Have you compared it? How do the items that this group is prepared to assist us in buying, how does that compare to how the state contract typically looks?
Most of the items that we would be looking to buy are not on state contract. Many of the large tractors solid waste uses, the vehicles that EMS uses, the remounts that we've been doing as of late are not on state contract, so it's not even a comparison. There are some standard vehicles that are comparable between the two. I did take a look at some of those. Some of them are cheaper, some of them are not. It's not an all-inclusive answer to everything on state contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Lael?
Just one. How did you find out about these folks?
HGAC buy has been organized for, I don't know, some 30 years. Typically, whenever a department identifies something that's on it, they'll bring one of the co-ops to my attention. I'll research it, take a look at it. So this particular one was brought to me by EMS.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Floor is open for a motion.
Motion approved.
Have a motion to approve from Commissioner Houp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lael.
Item F is a request for approval for the minutes of August 19th, 2014.
Okay. There are no corrections or amendments. The floor is open for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve comes from Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's see, we have no announcements of vacancies occurring on boards and commissions this evening. That brings us to appointments to boards and commissions. The JCPC, we have 2 appointments. Floor is open for nominations.
Chairman, I'd like to nominate Scott Stewart and Brett Eckerman, have volunteered to serve.
Okay. We have any other nominations? Hearing none, I would move we close the floor to nominations and appoint these 2 by acclamation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Brings us to the Troutman Planning Board. We have 1 appointment.
Mr. Chair, I nominate Randy Farmer.
Okay. Commissioner Griffith nominates Randy Farmer. Any other nominations? If not, I move we close the floor to nominations and appoint Mr. Farmer by acclamation. All in favor say aye.
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 I'm sorry. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Fire Tax District Board.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we table.
We have a motion to table from Commissioner Griffith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any unfinished business to come to our attention? It's the first meeting, so no public comment. Any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I had one thing. If the board, I'd like to ask the staff if the board agrees with me to, there's been some miscommunication out in the public on some of the bond projects. So I'd like to ask Ron to get the information from the schools and post on the county website, the different projects, the cost of the individual projects, and if passed, the impact to the taxpayers, the 4.25 cents. And I think that would go a long way with some misinformation and misunderstanding out there, potentially, of some of the projects and the different cost of them. If the board agrees with me, that would be okay with them to post it on our website. It would just give the public more another resource other than the school's website to log on and look at the projects and the cost and a true impact if passed by the voters.
Okay, so this would be something that Iredell Statesville provides for their projects, Mooresville provides for their projects, and then our tax office or finance office
Right.
has a sheet that gives what the financial impact is.
Right. That way the information's accurate coming from the systems themselves.
Okay, yeah, I'm all right with that.
Okay. Anything else?
Is that a motion?
Well, I was going to ask, Commissioner Halp asked if that was okay with the board.
Make a motion that we add that information once you gather from the systems and the tax impact, if passed, to our website.
And just to let you know, we'll be directly in the middle on anything. It'll be unbiased, educational in nature.
We just want the facts out there. That's all we want.
State the projects and the impact on the tax rate. So that was a motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any other new business? County manager's report.
Actually, I mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to remind you that I think October 2nd in the evening is going to be the date that we've landed on for a joint meeting with the town of
Say
Moore.
that again, October.
October 2nd. That's a Thursday.
Have you decided where it's going to be?
We have not. I think we're going to try and do it in Troutman, somewhere in the middle. But we'll let you know as soon as we find that.
Kind of narrowed it down there, didn't you?
What time is that tentatively planned for?
Don't have a time yet. I'm sure it'll be after 6.
What a struggle to get a date, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were. We were. That's all I have.
Okay. That's all we have. I'd move we go into closed session on General Statute 143, 318, 11A5 in regard to real property purchase, contract, or lease. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
heard him, and over the years, I have learned to ignore him. There's just some fly buzzing in my ear. Make a motion, we adjourn.
Will, place a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.